Hello and you are welcome to Further Together. Today we will be talking about common complaints from children.
Woo. Yes, hello and welcome to Further Together one more time. Today, if you can put your phone on silence, please. Today we are coming with the common complaints from children, and I know for the past 2 weeks we've been talking about the common complaints from men, then common complaints from women, and we later discovered that children, they have their own complaints and we shouldn't ignore them. So we brought children, having known that children are in of different ages. We then decided to bring young children and the young adults who will, so that we can have a proper balance of what we want to discuss tonight. And with us in the studios, we have Tanaka, Victoria, and Tadiwa. And on the other side, we cross over, we have Marcia. Marcia, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We feel more honored to have you.
For having me.
And we have Benji. Benji's not a stranger here. We had him some few months ago. We had a different topic, and we have him tonight. Minister Benji, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you doing?
It's good to see you. Merry Christmas. It's an early one, isn't it?
In advance.
Yes.
Yes, guys, thank you so much for joining us. As you're aware that tonight we are starting on this series of common complaints from children, and we are hoping that tonight us as parents are going to learn. You can rebuke us if you want, you can correct us, share some tips with us that we can go forward and become better parents. That's what we desire for tonight.
Yeah, so we don't have the formation of how we can go through this, but I think it'll be more better if we put you, the bigger guys on sport. Just give us one or two. Minister Benji, how would you want to come in?
Like, shall we start?
Yeah. Just give us, a test. Then we go around. We come to these guys. We go to Marcia. We go back. We keep on going until we think we have exhausted the list.
Because once I start, I get violent. Okay, I think, first of all, thank you for the privilege and the honor to come back on the show. It's always exciting to be with you guys and the Further Together community. So complaints from children to parents. One of the things that strikes out most to me is, now I think I speak on behalf of teenagers who are entering adulthood, right? So let me start with the age bracket. I think we want our parents to respect us as individuals and as human beings with free thoughts. We are not things. We're actually people with feelings and opinions, right? So now I know when I mention the word respect in our ethnic community, it's kind of alarming. Like, what do you mean I should respect you? So
Yes.
respect, every human being deserves to be respected. So I think there's a difference between respect and honor. So when I say honor, that's more for parents. The Bible says honor your parents, but respect is to be given to every human being. So for example, before parents make a life-changing decision like moving to another city or to another country, have you thought about how it's going to affect me as a human being? When you want me to attend an event or a family function without notice, you tell me a day before. Have you paid regard to my plans? I also have plans. I also have a life outside of this family setup. So I mean, I could go on, but I think just respecting children as individuals with feelings, with priorities, with things to do is a good start. Not to dictate what we should do with our time and our money and our space and everything.
Benji, now that's so profound. And just earlier on, Tanaka, you did confront me, isn't it? And it was about, do you want to share?
At first, our parents said that it would be us three doing it, and then when they said that others were coming on, we were surprised and everything because we weren't prepared about it.
Yeah.
So now Tanaka did say. So Tanaka did come and say, but mom, you didn't tell us that we have more people coming on, and we're like, oh, sorry guys, So we are learning, and thank you so much for bringing that up. That we have to get you guys involved, to respect you enough to know that you might have other plans, or you might have things worked out a different way. So that really is so valid.
So Marcia, we're coming to you, Miss.
Yeah, can I say?
Yes.
Can I just say, oh my gosh, yeah, respecting that took me a long time to understand, because I used to have such conflict between honor and respect. Because I'm like, I'm for the Bible, I really want to honor my parents, like with my whole heart, but then it's so hard to honor if respect is lacked, even though you can still do one with the other. It's like if you want to do with your whole heart, the respect also needs to be present. And I used to confuse the two until I realized there's an actual difference. So I was like, yeah, I really appreciate that so much. I think one thing that can link into that as well is that if parents can also learn to apologize. Because I feel like it really sets the foundation for us as well, knowing that it's okay to be in the wrong. It's a learning process. It's not the end of the day. You're not coming to die. Like it's just something that each human has to go through and to be able to take ownership of our own actions. If our parents are able to show that from get-go, I feel like a great foundation for us, because when I start entering the whole world by myself, I can realize I can apologize to my friends, I can apologize to my peers, I can apologize to whoever I need to apologize and take ownership of my own actions. Yeah, I think that's really, really important, especially within an African household. I can't speak for everyone, so this is a generalization, but I do know that the apology is there, as in it just gets brushed over. You're just like,
Yeah.
And then you're like, I was right. And not to dwell on the idea of who's right or who's wrong. It's just that idea of taking ownership. Because if I can, my own parent, who's somebody who's very close to me, is able to do that, then like I have no reason not to be following those actions.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's a struggle. For me with these
it's
guys.
Not easy. I know, but because I feel like kids as well need to learn, because it's not easy for us. I know that I've had incidences where I've been in the wrong and I've kept my mouth shut.
Yeah.
It's not easy on anybody. It's just I feel like if parents the tone, then it's so much easier for us to follow that.
Oh, thank you very much. We are coming over to those with us here, and if Tanaka can just run some of your points, then if you can make a rundown, we will go back to the other guys so that we can mix. To those that are just joining us tonight, we are speaking, or we are having a conversation with the young people, children, common complaints from children, and to have a proper representation, we have the young adults, Benjamin and Marcia. And we also have those the teenagers and the young ones. Yeah. So we wanted to have a proper representation of children. Yeah. And so if you have comments, parents you're watching right now, please comment in.
And we also did encourage, if you can have your children watching with you, you can just allow them to throw in their complaints in the comment section. We are not taking personal, but we are taking corrections this evening. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Tanaka, over to you.
So, one of my complaints was that my parents don't know how good I am in school compared to other students. Mm-hmm. So, in the meaning that there's so many other students that do worse than I do, or they're not as good as I am. And then when it comes to at home, it'll be more like I'm doing something bad, as if I should be like the rest. But in reality, the rest aren't as good as you would expect them to be.
My God. That's some serious.
It's Vicky says
Vicky
I can.
Give us a bit more information. Do you want to add on that?
So like
when you have a test and you think that you tried your hardest, or you say that you tried your hardest, they'll say, "Oh, but how come this person in your class got 23 and you got 22?" And you'll be getting compared, but you know that other people in your class have done way worse than you, and it will just be like I shouldn't be getting compared. I shouldn't be getting compared if I tried my best on what I had to do, instead of me, like instead of me not instead of getting compared to other people who like did what they could as well as what I did.
Mhm.
So the issue of comparison, I think, is coming on there as well. And children are saying, stop comparing us with other children. Probably we're doing better than them because there are actually other people who are doing way less. And thank you for that.
Tadiwa.
I can also say something about comparison. For example, if you get something wrong, or if you've done like a test and you've tried, they'll say you could have done better if you done this or that, and you could have tried or studied like this person.
Okay, so it's coming back.
Yeah. So parents, if you're watching and you are just like me, we are being told that we have to repent. Is it the very same thing with you guys, young adults? Do you feel the pressure of being compared as well?
Not at this age, because now I've established myself. So I'm like, don't compare me to other people. The moment I hear any kind of comparison, I say, I'm not that person. So let's just stop talking about that.
But I think it's there. So two things came from the last few comments. It's comparison and academics, right? And first of all, I totally agree with everything the young people have said. I would like to say that life is not all about academics. I know we come from a background, our African culture, like go to school, get a good job, but the world is evolving and academics don't actually matter as much as they used to. That's the new reality. I hope parents figure that out. What matters now is experience. What matters more now is being adept with technology. So the world is not what it used to be 40 years ago when everything was about get a degree and go to school. So that's academics. Comparison. Hey, I think comparison is not only within our social circles and classmates, but even comparison within the family amongst siblings. Like, why can't you be like your brother? That is off as well. It makes young people so insecure. It puts unnecessary pressure, and I think parents should have a balance and also understand that some of you parents are not really as good as you think you were back when you were in school.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah. So if you as a parent never got 10 A's at your O level, don't demand your child to get 6 A's. Like, there is no precedent there. Be realistic. You give us your A level certificates with 15 points, then right? And also with comparison, a lot of parents demand in their children what they've not invested in them. Like, if you've not made an effort to be concerned about my academics by either sending me to extra lessons, getting me into a good school, do not expect, you can't watch unnecessary pressure. I think there's feedback there. Yeah. So you can't reap what you have not sown in your children. And I think that goes even beyond academics. Anything, even parents who want well-behaved children, who want children to marry decent partners, so you can only get what you've put into your children. So comparison is off, and life is not all about academics. And also, just the last point, if you want your kids to flourish in academics, and even if they're struggling, one of the ways to do it is, the more you praise your children in things they do well, that will actually spill over into motivating them to excel in areas where they are weak. But if you just focus on their weaknesses and hammer on their weaknesses, then you're beating them down. But if a child maybe is not so strong in academics, but maybe they're very good in music or sports, the more you praise and encourage them there, then you now have a good channel of communication to motivate them to improve where they're lacking.
All right. Can we move to another point quickly? That's point taken with a pinch of ouch there, because yes, it's quite painful to hear from you guys. You know, some of these things really to us. I know that sometimes I'm saying to you, give us 10 A's, and you're saying, Dad, but you're same age as Elon Musk, but you are not as rich as Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So let's move on. Marcia, please come in.
Yes.
What's another? Give us another point.
Another point. Oh God. Another complaint.
Do you want us to come on you, or you want us to go on somebody, then come back to you?
Come back.
All right. Vicky, come in.
When I'm about to do something like reading a book or doing the dishes, and then like I want to do it on my own, and then mum or dad will come and they'll say, Vicky, can you do the dishes? Can you read your book, please? Then I just won't want to do it anymore because I'm required to do it. But when I want to do it on my own, then it's just more better for me.
Wow.
Right.
It becomes painful when it's like a demand or a chore and you're being told to do it. So you want us to give you the opportunity and the initiative to do things by yourself without us telling you to do it, basically.
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Kofi, just to comment, what is the temperature in your house right now? Because it's starting to get hot in here.
I think you can hear me. I mean, you can hear that I'm breathing very high. So
Yeah. The strain in the voice has changed from the beginning.
Come on, I mean, what's all these guys? Okay, let's do this quickly. Tanaka, run 2 or 3 of your points, right? Then we cross over to the big guys.
So these are some of the ones my friend said, but one of them went along the lines that my dad gets annoyed at me when I come late, even though the bus was not on time. And then when I tell him the bus isn't on time, he tells me to go earlier when it wouldn't make a difference because the bus is still late.
Wow. Interesting.
Then another one from my classmate said, whenever my mom criticizes me, she pushes me. Whenever my mom criticizes me, I have to handle it. But when I criticize her, she pushes me away.
Wow.
Right.
And then I've got one more that goes along with these lines, which say, when I change my tone, they call it shouting. But when they're shouting and I tell them that they're shouting, they refuse to acknowledge it.
Right. We're crossing over to you guys. You know, yes, we are not shouting. We are African fathers. That's how we talk.
We are talking.
We are talking. We are discussing.
So these guys are saying not to hypocrisy, basically, not to hypocrisy.
Let's give it to them. Let's give it to them. Like, can I hear from you guys?
Yeah, so I have one. I think it kind of links into everything we've kind of said already, and that's expectations. I feel like parents need to I feel like we need to have like a one-to-one conversation, open conversation about expectations you have as a parent to a kid. If that makes sense.
That one as well. You brought another one. Yes.
And I mean in every like aspect of life, not just like academics. I mean in how you conduct yourself as an individual when you leave the household, and how you speak to other people, how you speak to your teachers. I feel like that conversation just generally needs to happen, or having an open space for those kind of conversations to take place. Because I feel like initially as a kid, obviously you go through stages and you change it, and I feel like as a parent as well, those stages should change according to how the child is. Like when I'm 18, I can explain parenting to my dad, like to my father, to me when I was 3 years old. Does that make sense? See the change in your child and being able to realize, okay, cool, the child now growing up, we can have these open more conversations, especially from a teenagehood, especially in our world today. I feel like kids are exposed to a lot of things that parents don't realize are exposed to, maybe in comparison to young, older generations. And it's like being able to have those kind of conversations is really helpful. Then just rather than us being what's the word? The word is not coming to me. Rather that's just being in like as if there's like a shield in front of us. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so just allow, I think the main point of what I'm trying to say is just allowing a safe space kids for a parent and a kid to have an open conversation.
Benji, over to you, my guy.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Marcia said there. I think just to jump off the back of that and into a new point, communication, and this is across all levels of relationships, whether it's marriage or parenting or work, communication, parents should not only just hear to respond back, but actually listen to what your children say. Listen to your children's concerns, their complaints. Listen. And I think a big one is, please, parents, admit you don't know everything. And it's okay not to know everything.
Muzuguru, I'm your uncle.
It's actually okay, especially with this generation of young people you're raising. They are much more intelligent than your generation when you were your age, simply because of the information age. Young people have access to facts, they have access to media. So don't just acknowledge you don't know everything. And in that way you can be much kinder in your approach to things. Young people are much more and also don't be insulted by our us being intelligent and expressing our intelligence is not disrespect. It just is the way it is. A lot of people they feel disrespected in areas where they lack knowledge, so just admit, as it doesn't matter how many gray hairs you have, you don't know everything. And there's even not knowing everything about parenting. I would say that there are some traits that are passed on in our culture from generation to generation. Let's admit, not everything in our culture and tradition is perfect. So be willing to, to keep some traditions, but also be willing to let go of some things that you thought were right growing up, but they're wrong. For example, growing up now in the Western world, you know that beating your children is really not an option. Now, there are ways to communicate and discipline children outside of using a belt or punching or violence. Because, and I have to make this point, because there are some parents who don't know the difference between spanking and actually beating a child. Some parents end up using their frustrations either from their marriage or from work or pressures of life and venting it out on children, all in the name of discipline. And that's not discipline. You just are starting a cycle of violence and domestic abuse. How is the temperature right now?
Keep going, sir. It's getting hot in here. It's getting hot.
I see Beverly. She's also online. My daughter in Germany. She's yes. There's
reply to Vicky.
All right. There's a response. Do you want to read that one today, or Vicky wants to read it?
I think there's a fine line here. Whilst it's good to use your initiative, there are times when parents have to prompt you to teach you to do things on time and teach you some organizations.
Okay, so it's a response to Vicky to say sometimes as parents, we are prompting you to do things on time as well as being organized. So when we're coming to say bang, probably that's a comment coming from there. However, Vicky, do you have two of your lines that you want to throw quickly? Then we go to the big guys. But I think the big guys have other points that might not be relevant to you guys.
Yeah, go
on. When your parents are shouting at you and they ask you a question, and then when you answer the question, they shout at you for answering back.
Why are you answering me?
And then when you come home from school and you're tired, so you go to rest, or you're like on your phone, and your mom will call you and you reply, and she'll call you again and you reply again. And then when you go to her, she'll just be like, oh, don't worry, never mind. So you're basically just wasted your time getting up like, oh, don't worry, never mind. So you're
Right. I know that for me, sometimes I want the answers, but when you're answering me, I feel like you're despising my power here. So
choose what you want. Do you want an answer or do you want silence? The Bible says a double-minded man staggers in all his ways, is unstable in all his ways.
yeah, I'm just
Sometimes you don't even know what.
yeah, because the temperatures will be high, so you don't know what to say. Marcia, what are you saying there?
I feel related. I feel the related. Oh God, the relatability right now. I understand what you're saying, but I feel like because I'm older, it's more a bit nostalgic. I don't have the same complaints as at this stage of my life anymore. But I see myself like I used to be the person that would talk back as well. I've now learned to just bite my tongue personally, because I feel like it helps the relationship progress. But it's those moments where I was in that struggle of just trying to understand. Okay, so like you ask me a question, I'm gonna give you an answer. I don't know what more you require out of me.
Now to you, Benji.
Yes.
Do you have complaints that are unique to your age group that you can say that these guys haven't been here?
Young,
I've got a list. I've got a list. When are you ready? Tell me when you're ready.
Go on, bring it on,
man.
Are you ready for this one? Are you ready for this one?
Yes,
we are always ready. I'm seeing some moms and dads there, and it's a recorded, so others are going to see it a little bit later. Go.
I'll say this on behalf of all my generation 25 and above. Do not pressure us to marry.
Wow, Marcia, look at Marcia. Look at Marcia. She said,
As in,
yeah, it's because when you do get married and and the heat and flames of marriage start hitting, it's just me in that situation. All those tetes wanted to pururudze and put their zambias, their DJs, various item steps, they won't experience the struggles of marriage. So do not put pressure for marriage. I know a lot of it comes from selfishness, because some of you want to just have a big wedding and show your friends that my daughter got married, right? Some parents always come from a selfish just I want to hold my grandchildren before a certain age, or because you feel like your friends are also having their grandchildren, you also want to have grandchildren, but you're not putting into consideration the pressure it puts on young people, especially young women. Yeah, so be very sensitive and kind. Don't pressure us to marry. And it's even okay not to marry. Like, there are people in the Bible who chose not to marry. Yes, it's not a sin against God. It's a preference, it's a choice thing. So because some people have rushed into marriages out of pressure and have ended up in terrible situations. It could be abusive marriages, it could be, just terrible marriages where someone is not compatible simply because they were pressured by their parents. And the pressure is not always overt, like, oh, I want you to marry next year. It comes subtly through subtle comments that are thrown in like jokes, but they end up being insulting, So you know yourselves and what you say. So
I think Marcia and Auntie had a similar conversation, and I think Benji and Auntie here, you had a similar conversation also long, isn't it, Marcia?
No, but
come on, Marcia. Yeah. Come here. What's
it is? It's not. How do I explain it? I feel like it's just the sudden change all of a sudden. As you're growing up, I wouldn't say you're not allowed to date, but I would speak like witness, because I personally have had freedom and I've not being too restricted. But it's like you kind of have to make other things a priority. Then all of a sudden you're 25 and now marriage is your priority. Like it's not making sense, because that's not that like life doesn't just work like the day I turn 25. Okay, let's get going. I'm ready for marriage. Like it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It takes for my head to like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming an adult. Life is happening. I've got all of these responsibilities, and marriage happens to be a part of that list. It's still not a priority, but it's on the list, and it's like it takes time. So whether I'm married when I'm 25 or 35 or 40, it will happen when it happens.
Yeah, actually, can I jump in? Because also when we were younger as teenagers and young adults, like around 18, 19, let's be honest, most parents, when they hear that you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, they get uncomfortable. Like,
exactly.
what do you need a boyfriend or girlfriend for, right? And all of a sudden, when you turn 25, you're just supposed to magically switch, and but you've been very against relationships from this earlier stage. All of a sudden, now you want me to marry. How, like, ease your children into that space. Don't just 1 year you're saying, I don't want to see boyfriends here. Your boyfriend are your books and your degree, and the next thing after the degree, oh, where's the husband? Like, you haven't given me time to process, my adult.
Oh my God!
Yes. What
while you're still on that one of the things I think that we struggle as African parents is, knowing that your child has a boyfriend or has a girlfriend, and now wanting them, when your child wants them to come inside your house. What's your take on that? What would you advise us? If my teenage son has a girlfriend, must I allow that girlfriend to come inside my house?
My domain.
So I think it's a tricky question. It depends. So the conversation shouldn't start late in life. It should start from the birds and the bees when they are 9 and 10 years old. Right? You can't start talking about dating and relationships when your children turn 16 and 17, because these kids advance at quicker ages. Like, I remember when we were teenagers, we used to date at 13 when we were in high school, just as we left junior school. So if you're going to wait until a child is 17 to start saying, okay, so do you have a boyfriend? Like, 17 is kind of late in this generation. So ease those conversations from when they are 11, 12, not encouraging them to date at 12. I want to be clear. I'm not saying allow your kids to date at 12 and 11. No, I'm saying that the conversation should be open. So, if you see that your kids are starting to develop, because adolescence and puberty happens around that age anyway. So when you see those developments, that's the right time to start talking about these things. Explain to them what sex is, explain to them what this and that is. But you can't start having the first conversation about relations when a child is 16, 17 and they have a boyfriend. Like, it's too advanced. So yeah, those are my thoughts there. Ease your way into it.
I said earlier about having that open space of having certain conversations and setting your expectations as a parent from get-go. Because if you communicate with your kid from day one, this is the age I would appreciate you start dating, or this is whatever it may be. I feel like it's very helpful, because as a kid, I know my boundaries, and I'm not going to step on my parents' boundaries.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. I know we have comments. We have parents commenting here. I can see Elder Gabriel is here. Pastor Concilia Tukadatama is here, and Pastor Zata is here, and who else? Coach Pam. We have a lot of parents here, and they're somehow, they're feeling the heat. They want, because
the heat goes on to say that we are not giving you the pressure, but we are just releasing you into thinking about marriage. So they are calling it a release.
Right. Let's jump on to the next one, Benji, because we seem to be having a number of things here.
Okay. Shall I come in?
Yes,
yes. Bring it on. Marcia, did you want to come or Ben to come?
No,
So I think a lot of parents, now I speak to a more specific group now of parents whose children might have misbehaved as teenagers, or because most children have those phases. Number one, sometimes it's a phase. Don't judge your children as if they're criminals forever, right? Sometimes there's just a phase of being notorious and being explorative. But also, I feel like a lot of parents have amnesia. They forget they were once that notorious because no other genes made your children except your own genes.
That's painful.
Yeah. If you are to be honest and look at yourselves when you were parents, I mean when you were kids, you might not have done exactly the same thing, but it's the same behavior, it's the same mentality. Okay, let me get spiritual. Sometimes it's the same spiritual genetic generation or whatever that goes through your bloodline, and you act like your kids are the first ones to, I don't know, impregnate before wedlock, to have babies out of wedlock. But when you look at your siblings, very few of your siblings had, you get what I mean? Like a lot of parents, like for example, this is a common one, kids who get pregnant before marriage, and parents are judgmental, they want to throw pans and whatnot. But let's look at your family, let's look at your siblings. How many of you actually had white weddings before you had kids? So let's be honest with each other. How was the temperature?
He said, "Don't be the hypocrite."
I'm literally hot.
Marcia, do you wanna come in? Should we move on, or you wanna jump in?
I'm speechless right now because wow. Yeah. I think I'll add another point actually, which I feel like it's within theme. I feel like parents need to have a bit more empathy towards us. I know as parents you love us unconditionally, but the empathy needs to be shown. It to be a little bit tangible. Just as God has given us so much grace in life, I feel like we also need to start replicating that relationship our personal relationship we have with God to our kids, because it's literally like Benjamin was saying, like you also went through something, whatever you went through. So it's nice for parents to be able to look back and be like, okay, I can maybe understand where they're coming from, saying in their actions, because I know there's some silly people out there and I know there's some silly kids that really they try it. Not to defend them, but it would be useful just to know that their parent just has empathy, and it goes such a long way, because it seems to us like emotions such as kindness, such as love, like it just gives that tunnel, that path for the child to walk on back to you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's good that we have. My lawyer just came in right on time here. Thank you so much for coming. Can you see on the screen?
You're so happy.
Yes.
Can you read it louder, Benji?
You feel like your lawyer has come to your rescue, don't you, Seguru? You feel like
yes.
I agree with that comment, but sometimes allow the person to learn the mistake by themselves. Otherwise, it's never going to truly understand.
But it will be painful for us as parents, isn't it, to
just see you guys,
the same path, the same mistake.
But especially for the older kids, they have to learn themselves. It is painful, but that's when the empathy comes in, because as whatever the kid is going to go through, they're going to have to go through it, but they know they can always rely on you as a parent because you've shown that empathy, and they're going to get through it. It'll be painful, but life is painful. Life is not a smooth ride.
Can you refresh this
Benji, and I like what Amanda threw in before, and she was talking about empathy as well, putting yourselves in the parents' shoes. Like if you were then to have your children, would you allow them to go through the same, experiences as you've been, as you've gone through, without saying, "Hey, watch out, there's a..."
No. I I feel like a conversation is needed at a warning, but I don't know about you lot, but sometimes when that conversation comes from the parent, it's a bit hard to take in. if a third person was saying it, maybe you'd be like, okay, cool, let me be a bit more open to it. But when a parent says it to you, even though we know it's out of love because it's like unconditional, it's just I think it's because how much that parent knows you as an individual, and it hurts to hear the truth from your parents sometimes. Like the conversation needs to happen, but just still allow that kid to make their own decisions, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, so that point is being repeated. I can see Pastor Stanley have written that we don't want history to repeat itself, and I'm seeing Auntie Angie as well is saying we don't want history to repeat itself. But there is a point here. Benji helped me to read that from one of my daughters, Beverly. That's what she's saying there.
To add to the point, sometimes we are naughty or do the things we aren't allowed to do because we are just told to stop doing things without a proper explanation of why it is wrong. Yeah. So let me justify my previous comments. I feel like a lot of parents will feel like this young man, there's something wrong with him. I'm not advocating for reckless parenting, right, and giving your children unnecessary freedoms. But I'm just saying, in doing all that, just allow your kids to be themselves. And it doesn't matter how much you do well as a parent. Ultimately, your kids will always make individual decisions. But I just mean when you judge your kids, of course you don't want history to repeat itself. But be mindful that they're individual with feelings. They're individuals. They're their own human beings with feelings. And look in the mirror first. Take a look in the mirror before. And sometimes it's one thing to say something. It's another thing how it is said, right? A lot of parents will say things from a judgmental point of view. For example, if a child has been impregnated, as if they've, So I'm saying, when those mistakes or things happen, let us be kind. It's not the end of the world, and your child is not the first person, even the first person in your family to do that. So that's my point. And I feel like, remember, I'm not. And when I made that point, I tried to not generalize. I said this is for specific types of setups where you've got children who are mischievous or etc. So those of you who are raising your children who want to be God-fearing, don't feel offended if it doesn't apply to you.
Okay, can we just reach, just tune down the temperature a little bit?
Yeah, it was getting
It's boiling, and I'm seeing parents. So if we come down slightly, it might help to have it's like a commercial break. We're taking a commercial break.
Reset the equilibrium. We need to just reset.
Tanaka, if you can throw 2 or 3 points, then we.
One point is my parents don't know how strict is too strict, so they'll act strict for no reason, and then and then another point is
For no reason.
My parents are always telling me that I should never accept things from others because they may be drugged or may be planted with something or another type of way of grooming.
All right. So parents, we do not know how strict is too strict. Then the other issue is not receiving things from outsiders. I think this works more for young generations. But how strict is too strict? I don't know. Does it affect? What do you think about that, guys? Before we throw it there.
The strictness, how strict
is too strict? That kind of a thing. Is this something that you want to answer or you want us to throw to the guys? Huh? Yeah.
So there's a level of strictness where you can be strict. Somebody's meant to understand from that. But then there's like this level where you're strict for the sake of it. You just want to be strict. Like there's nothing they're doing wrong, but you're being strict about it. Say like they're having fun or they're doing their own thing, and then out of nowhere you say that's not what you should be doing. You should be doing this. This will help you more. This is that. This is the right thing. What you're doing is wrong. Even though the thing they're doing isn't wrong, it's just it's okay. What they're doing is okay. It's just different from what I would rather have.
You wanna add?
Yeah.
Right.
Go on.
Yes,
please.
go.
It's like when, say, you're on your phone or you're doing something else, like drawing or something, and then someone or parent, one of them will walk in the room and they'll say, this is not what you're supposed to be doing, you're supposed to be practicing for a test or something, or you're supposed to be studying, when it's not like, what you're doing is not,
It's not wrong.
it's not wrong, but it's just different to what they want you to do.
The level of strictness, and then there's somewhere where it shouldn't be as strict. There's being strict and then just being, I guess, rude.
So you're basically saying chill.
Right. Yeah, we're crossing over to the Ministry of Higher.
Sorry. Can I just like come in with it as a question? You know, you guys are Christian young adults. Is there any complaints that you have, especially for Christian parents, in terms of you know, them trying to get you to go to church or trying to get you to pray, just trying to get you spiritual? Any?
Wait, I've got
My
one.
my personal complaint doesn't come. It's just something I've observed amongst my peers, and the thing that annoys me to the core is sometimes we like to mix culture and Christianity, and then it's together, and I'm like, no.
I'm seeing Benji's rocking it.
Everywhere the Bible says, then they are
You're
silent.
rocking the boat.
Cool. Listen, as Africans, I understand it's important to keep our heritage, our history, our culture. To like, it's part of our identity. I do not deny that fact. But please, at the same time, Christianity is Christianity. Please, let's read the Bible together. Let's understand what the Bible is saying to us. Yeah, it's not saying it's because that example is the same thing that the people were doing when they're worshiping, when Moses went up the mountain, and then they started building up their own idol, and then they were worshiping. It's the same thing. Like, it's a mixture. Like, I don't know. I'll give you a personal example. I went home to visit my grandmother. Yeah. And then it was great, lovely. She's a powerful woman. She was a woman of God, on her knees praying. But then towards our trip, she's like, oh, let's go here so they can start praying for you. And then they'll give you stones. I was like, that's not making sense, because when I read my own Bible, the Bible doesn't tell me to be going to go and get the stone so that I can do better in life. That's not time to go on my knees and pray. So can we really do not, like, the mixture of culture and Christianity it's something, I know it's to detach from each other, but let's not mix that, and then also use it as a point to discipline our children, because like they're this Christian lady, you should be doing ABC, but the Bible doesn't say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Benji, before you, yes, you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, in short, I know that it may seem like culture and faith are interchangeable because they've got similar values, but again, we can't take our culture and traditions in their entirety. You know, there are some things that we should keep and some things we should lay off. For example, if we were to take our culture and traditions, which might include traditional religion, in its entirety, then we might not be as Christian as we think we are. So I think let the word be the word. But also about going to church and forcing kids to go to church, I feel as parents you will have better results by praying for your kids than forcing them, dragging them to church. What's more important, a lot of parents are just religious and church people, but they're not really people of faith. Like, I want to see the same energy you use at church as an elder, as a deacon, as a pastor, also be a man of God and a woman of God in the house. Like, teach your kids how to pray, teach your kids how to live right. But the problem is a lot of your kids might not follow you to church because they see the double standard life that you live. They see you as one person at church, but you don't live out your Christianity outside of church, and they can never take you seriously because no one knows you like your kids know you. You might not know it.
Tanaka
Right.
wanted.
Tanaka, do you want to add something?
I was gonna say about the forcing kids to go to church, and rather than, I was gonna say that rather than forcing them to go to church, you should help them practice prayer and stuff like that. Because if you force them to go to church, in the end they won't really listen because they're forced to do something. When you're forced to do something, it's not like your free will. You don't really want to do it. But say you were to teach them at young how to pray, to read the Bible, and all of that, they're more likely to do it more often than they would if you were to just say to them, "Oh, you have to read the Bible, you have to pray, and whatever." They're more likely to breeze through it, not really get anything out of it, than actually listening.
All right. Let's go to the comment section. Yokai Kofi said, just joined. I think I'm a cool parent. I do go concert with my children. I have an opening and honest with my children and more like friends. So they tell me everything going on in their lives. Then Tandy Sinozima say, my daughter has just told me that when I told them off for something wrong, they have done. Tanaka, I think he knows this one. He's using his hands. He says, I go on and on about it. I'm told once and it's enough. So parents, they're saying sometimes we do repeat it over and over and over because in Shona we say Zokorene Simba, there is more power in repetition. In sales, repetition is the mother of sales. So,
but what does it feel for you guys when
we repeat it over and over again?
Tadiwa.
It makes me feel a little stressful.
All right.
Because it just makes one thing stand out, making you know that you've done something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes the thing seem worse than it already is.
Tadiwa saying it makes the issue look more bigger than what it seems to be because you're repeating it over and over again. Yeah, go ahead.
It's really, really annoying because when you know that you've heard them once and then they're going to say it again and they're saying it again, but you know you keep on hearing them and they keep on saying it and repetitively, and it just gets annoying when you keep on hearing people say the same thing more than once and again and again and again.
Yeah, it's good to emphasize things, but then this is where it leads into comparison. Because from you going on and on about it again, then you'll start to compare to other children saying, oh, if he were to do it, they would correct their mistake by doing this, or if this were to happen there, they would be able to do this, they'll be able to do that. And then that's where, from you repeating stuff constantly, leads to comparison.
I'm glad Pastor Zata is saying, boss, I want to give it to you now, Benjamin Marcia. But Pastor Zata is saying, one of the days you guys, you'll be parents as well, and you will see how we're struggling with these issues.
I can see we're talking people
before you
here.
answer, you have to know that Bishop is right here. So Bishop Hamandishe
is typing now.
Bishop Hamandishe is typing. I'm glad. Bishop, please come in. Benji, go ahead.
Yeah. What else? I think I've said most of the stuff. Okay. Oh, you guys have gone off.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. I think also parents should be able. Okay, two things I'll say. Just to bring balance, I would like to encourage parents to invest themselves in learning parenting. I feel like I'll give you a church situation. I've seen in our churches, like further together, of course, you guys invest a lot in couples retreats, couples seminars, couples counseling, premarital counseling. If you invested that same energy into pre-parenting counseling, parenting seminars, parenting retreats, I think you would experience much more fruitful and healthy families. Because let's be
Wow.
honest, parenting is different. First of all, I want to applaud and respect every parent out there. Parenting is hard. I know it as
Yeah.
as a firstborn, as an older sibling. Parenting is not easy. Think about it, especially in our context. Someone is coming from an absent father sort of family, being raised by a single mom, and another person comes from a family where they're both parents, and you're trying to start this new thing with totally different perspectives. So there's so many things that affect the quality of parenting, right? So I do respect every parent on this platform. Please don't feel insulted by some of my comments. I'm speaking on behalf of a generation
Yeah.
that has certain feelings. So, but I encourage you guys to invest yourselves in parenting. The same way you can never figure out marriage even after 50 years, it's the same thing with parenting. It doesn't get easier. Sometimes it gets harder, even as the children get older. Parenting doesn't end when a child is 18. When a child is 30, you're still their parent because he was too show up at their wedding. And so I think let's invest into parenting. So another point I want to add is I encourage parents to acknowledge that our life experiences and your life experiences and our generation are different. So remember, we spoke about comparison to other kids and other siblings. Please don't compare us to yourselves as well,
Mm,
because we're growing up in totally different generations with
mm.
different pressures. I hear these kids saying, for example, parents always used to say, when we were age, we used to walk to school barefoot, 30 kilometers,
What did you
swimming, climbing mountains like tough, like they are jungle people. Like,
Veg.
it doesn't apply.
What did you just say?
I said they would exaggerate it so much and say we used to climb mountains, we used to run away from everywhere.
We are not exaggerating. We're telling you our lives.
Yeah. So, so, but wait, but listen, I get where that comes from. Basically, you're trying to make the point that, hey, when we grew up, we didn't have as many privileges as you guys had. We didn't have Wi-Fi, we didn't have phones, and we still made something out of our lives. And you expect your children to make something better of themselves with the advantage they have, the technology. And it is, yeah, we get that point. But it's just appreciate the differences that you can't expect them to appreciate your struggle because they've actually never known struggle. Like
Yeah.
it's a privilege. Unfortunately, that's what privilege does to people as well. They just can't appreciate life through that lens because they haven't experienced it. So don't expect them to be waking up at 3 a.m. to study with their feet in a bucket like you guys used to do when you were going to mission school or boarding school, because the struggles are different. So the motivation is going to be different. Find other ways of motivating them than struggle, because if they've never struggled and they can't relate to struggle, they can never appreciate your struggle, no matter how much of a struggle your struggle was.
My
Mm.
God. Hey.
Hey,
I have said this.
I like Yokai here. She's saying parenting is hard. You know.
Wow. And Benji, I think you really hit the nail on the head, by telling us to invest in parenting. And I'm just thinking
Yeah.
about it that I bought some, parenting, teenage parenting, this and that. And some of them I've just read them, some pages in. And yet we invest so much on so many other things. But
Yeah.
this one thing that God has given us is a call to be guardians, to look after these children and raise them in the way of the Lord. We may not be doing so much. So thank you for really.
Can I jump in again? Can I jump in again?
Yep.
Just before this thought leaves. Another parenting tip that I like to tell parents is humility in parenting can actually get you more results than you can get with being aggressive or being
And
assertive. Actually
yeah.
being humble. And I take this from the Bible. The greatest parent and the greatest father of all is God, Abba Father, our Father, right? The Bible says that he humbled himself. Jesus humbled himself and he became flesh, right? As powerful as God was, in order to save his children, he had to humble himself so that he could come and feel what they feel. The Bible says that we have a high priest who can be touched with the feelings of our infirmities. So what am I saying? Humility and actually sitting down to have conversations with children and listening to what is going on in their lives. Tell me what's going on at school. what's going on in your dating life. If you're dating, you're not married, tell me what's going on, or what's going on at work. What are the pressures that are killing? Just to sit down and listen without commenting and giving opinions, just for you to listen and feel their pain can actually help you become a better parent. But a lot of the times, parents dictate, they give opinions, they give suggestions without understanding someone's entire world in its entire context.
All right. Wow.
Humility and honesty.
All right.
If you're gonna be humble, you should be honest with it as well.
Yes. Speak louder, son.
If you're gonna be humble, you should be honest with it as well. You can understand somebody's point of view. You can feel like you're in their shoes. You can lower your pride and everything. But honesty helps. It say like what's it called? Your parents are struggling away, and they're telling you, but then they're saying, oh, we're not struggling that bad, when they really want help from somewhere. Honesty is like a key thing there. Like Vicky said, honesty is the best policy.
Honesty is the best policy, so we ought to be honest as well, where we are struggling to open up to you guys. Now, before we now want to round up, do you have any hot points?
I know hot one.
Right, just hot one, one hot one, then you go one which you think you need to
get off your chest.
Yeah, just one. Tadiwa.
So there's many complaints that, for example, your friend has a birthday party, and then you ask your parents to go. They say they don't have the time, or they say you have to do your work. And then by the time you do your work, it's either the party's finished, or they just say that they won't drop you off.
Right.
So these are unfulfilled promises.
Unfulfilled promises are coming, that you do this, or it's you have to do this for you to get this.
That, yeah.
It's
there's
not
no
that
unconditional.
There's a lot of conditions attached to whatever we want to do for you. Right. Tanaka, do you have anything? Vicky, do you have any burning point quickly, please?
Let's see.
Tanaka, Vicky, you bring your ones if you have any. You don't have any. You're done, Vicky. All right.
Yeah, I think we can round up.
All right. So
one of the ones that I was commonly seeing was that when I went to ask my friends for like points about their parents and stuff, they would be too afraid to share it, and I think it's because the parents were a bit like controlling. So as I was going through my notes, I noticed that some of my friends would be saying, oh, I won't share because my mum will see my messages, or I won't share because I'm afraid to correct my mum, I'm afraid to correct my dad. So correction is one.
So to accept correction.
Right, accepting correction, and there's that fear with within many children. Yes, hello, Mr. Bayana. It's good. Thank you so much for joining us. Over to you guys, Marcia and Benji, so that we can round up. Throw in the points as quickly as you can, then we round.
Honestly, I have nothing more but just to say thank you to all parents for being parents, as Benji was saying earlier. I'm firstborn, so I partially feel that at a very small percentage, very minuscule, to my siblings. But being responsible for another human being when you yourself are just still trying to navigate life is incredible. So yeah, just thank you to your parents, seriously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I echo the same sentiments. First of all, I say this to ease myself into attacking. So let me start with kind of first.
Yeah, bring it on.
Bishop, please come back.
Thank you to all the parents, for being honestly, the older we get, the more we appreciate where you guys come from. And
Yeah.
parents, it's not easy, especially now with this cost of living and the way the world is turning upside down, and you guys stick around for your kids. We appreciate it, and continue being the best friends you have. Again, I just encourage parents to strengthen your relationships with your children, invest into your relationships with your children, especially individual parent to child. If when you have 5 kids, 3 kids, each child is different. I think Yokai mentioned something like that, or someone else. Understand each child's needs, understand each child's strengths, understand each child's weaknesses, understand them as an individual, and tailor your parenting. There are some kids where shouting is what's actually needed to get them in line, and then there are some kids who are more introverted. When you shout, you make them corner themselves into a little cocoon, and they become timid and intimidated. So some of those, maybe shouting might not work. You need to sit down and have conversations. So understand your children as individuals, and be good listeners. Don't just listen to respond or to speak. Listen to your children. Understand that you don't know everything, right? And also, I'll say this lastly: your children, especially teenagers, they may act as if they're independent and they want to be their own person. They want their own room. They want their own space. So you have to
Right.
strike a balance of giving your kids enough space for them to explore their individuality, but also be close enough to pick them up when they fall, right? So give them space, but don't be distant. Be there for them, but don't invade their space. I don't know how you're going to find that balance, but it's needed. Yeah, it's needed. They want you to be far and close at the same time. So you're going to have to figure out how to do that. Unfortunately, we unfortunately we also don't know what we want. So you have to find that balance. But yeah,
This is we've got the homework,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's a hard bone to
chew.
chew. Like you guys mentioned that being a parent is not easy. I saw a lot of my fathers there. Bishop Hamandishe was saying it doesn't come with a manual. Yes, we have the word of God, but there are certain little things that we do struggle with. And Yokai mentioned the issue of differences. But when I had Tanaka and I was working with him, I thought I knew everything. Then Victoria came. Victoria totally different. Her character is different from Tanaka's. So when I had these two, then he's coming. I'm thinking I now have the template, only to see that his personality and his character is also different. So it requires learning, over and over again, and treating every individual as unique as they are, which is quite hard for us as parents. And like you mentioned, some of us, we grew up in Africa where the only language that we were taught was spanking or beating. So now it becomes, when we are shouting and screaming, we feel like we are trying. We are, after all, we are not even beating you. We were whooped. We were beaten. We were, like
violated.
we were brutalized.
And you know what, Benji?
Abused, yeah.
Benji and Marcia, what I quite appreciate tonight is that you guys have really, really impacted us in ways that you might not even understand. Sometimes we go for, we speak to each other as parents, but really we are out of touch. We are out of,
Oh, yeah.
and we are telling ourselves, this is the best parenting tips.
Yeah, we're
But I
doing well,
think
man.
what you've given us tonight goes beyond any lessons that we've had on parenting, because you are the children. So you are really giving us your opinion, which I think is very, very profound. Yes, Benji?
Sorry, just to make a short comment. It's a struggle, especially for people in the diaspora, hey, because you are Zimbabweans to the bone. You were born in Zimbabwe, you were raised in Zimbabwe, your parents, you guys would go to the village, you have the whole African experience. And then you have kids in England, in the Western world. So it's we understand and appreciate the struggle of being African parents trying to raise British children. It's not easy.
Yes.
I just want you to know we totally understand. And also, your children also go through similar identity crisis. They are also British, but they're also trying to figure out their African identity. So that also plays a part into how individuals and young people grow up. So I just want you to understand that if you feel stuck as parents in that regard, you're not alone. Every parent has reached that level of being stuck, like, hey, I don't know how to connect with my children because all this English, like, okay, so do we speak English at home? Do we speak Shona? Do we, those little struggles? Every parent goes through those phases. So understand that you aren't alone. I think the most important thing is everything that you do for your kids, do it in love and learn to express love, especially verbally. Now, I'll say this, I know I'm going over time. It's important to tell your kids you love them.
Yes.
It's
Verbally
very
as well.
important
Great.
because if that love is not expressed verbally, because growing up, our parents' generation, right? I'm speaking for the generation. Most men only expressed love by provision. So it's like even if you didn't tell them, even if they didn't tell you they love, they're like, but do I not pay rent here? Do I not buy food here? That's their love language, provision. But kids don't see your pay slip. Kids don't see you paying bills. They want to feel that love. They want you to make time for your kids. I know we are living in a very hard economic time, but take a Saturday out where you just are at home. Don't even go on a holiday. Just spend the whole day with your kids. You get to figure out 100 things you never knew about them. Because if life is always at work and you only meet for 1 hour a day, you become detached from each other. So spend time with your kids. Take your kids out to daughter dates. Sekura, I see you doing that. Mothers, go out with your sons, because fathers, how you treat your daughters will set a precedent on the quality of relationships they will have growing up. Mothers, how you treat your sons will determine, because every son will look for his mother in a wife and in a girlfriend. So how you treat your children as individuals, mother to son, mother to daughter, father to son, father to daughter, is going to embed psychological pathways in them on how they perceive the world and perceive the opposite sex. If you're a man and you're not faithful to your wife in the house, it's going to impact your children. They won't tell you, but it's going to impact them and the quality of their relationship. So please be very invested in your kids. Be very involved in your kids. Be good listeners and be good communicators and express love.
Be invested, be involved. Yes, Marcia.
I was just gonna say thank you to you too for having this open conversation, because as much as we've said and complained, the fact that you've allowed this space for your own kids to sit there on the couch and have this conversation, to me personally, that's mind-blowing, and it's something I'm going to take to my own kids, as in we're going to have this open. When I have kids, I'm going to force this conversation. So I appreciate you too, and thank you so much.
Oh, we really appreciate. What more shall we say apart from saying thank you so much, Marcia? I know you're a daughter, but you also have your own biz schedule. Benji, we really appreciate you. We know that you have workloads and other things. The music ministry, the work with the young people, and you just decided to come here. Our guests in here, Vicky
says she has nothing to do. She's just waiting for her birthday.
Her birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday in advance.
Oh, happy birthday, Vicky.
Happy birthday.
So we also want to appreciate Mr. and Mrs. Mukamba, who are in the background. If Marcia, if you were not where you are because of their upbringing, wouldn't have bring you here, because I'll be ashamed to call you my daughter. And Bishop Hamandishe, Pastor Agnes Hamandishe, thank you very much for releasing Benji, coming on this platform. What more shall we say apart from saying thank you to the parents who were watching? The comment section. I know today it was hot. I didn't talk as much. I didn't bring my humor as much. I'm sweating. I'm fuming.
Next time, I'm going to bring a fire engine to the.
Yo,
Yo,
you know, I needed a fan at least.
the whole fire brigade.
It's been amazing.
It has been amazing having you guys. Thank you very much. We have heard what you have said, and on behalf of parents, we are going to do our best to implement all the things that you have brought to us. And whenever you see us, that sometimes we are slightly off tune, please remind us. Please remind us. God bless you. We love you so much. Till we meet again. Bye for now. Bye.